Folks from police officers here at District A1.
Hey, I was wondering if they were on.
Oh, let's see. Do we have anyone representing A1 Police on the Zoom? I'm looking.
Yeah, I just messaged them. Yeah.
Yeah, just sorry, this is Captain Driscoll. Just give me 1 second. We're just trying
Oh,
to.
sure.
I think they had the wrong link, so hold on 1 second.
Sure. Oh, please.
It was for Terry. She's taking Sheila's place from the Intercontinental.
Oh, great. Hey, welcome, Deborah.
Yes.
DEB.
Oh, all right.
Oh, all right. Okay, great. Thank
Deborah is not new to the girl.
No, she looked very familiar to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
So quite a few years, yes.
Excellent. Nice to have you.
Happy to be back.
Hi, Antonis. Do we have any other newcomers who want to say hello? Alan, I said hi to Alan over there. You do come. Excellent. Nice to have you. Maria's here from the neighborhood services. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll have the police here in just a minute. We have Captain Driscoll on the line. I think we have some other folks that are joining us. And I will announce that we do have an excellent agenda this evening. In just a little while, we have right here in person, Kathy Abbott, President and CEO of Boston Harbor Now. And this is a very exciting year ahead for Boston Harbor in general and Boston Harbor Now in particular. And I've known Kathy and worked with her team quite a lot over the years, and it's a delight to have her here. Oh, there's Officer Mastacchio.
Sorry,
see you, Officer.
I was having issues with the Zoom.
That's all right. I'm just tap dancing a little bit here. But anyway, great to have you. Are you prepared, Officer, to give us a rundown?
I am, but if you were in the middle of something, I can wait. Whatever you guys want to do.
Just tap dancing. That's all. I can wait. So yeah, Officer Mastacchio, nice to have you. And we also have Captain Driscoll on the call as well. So thank you as always to our District A1 police force for helping to keep us safe and orderly here in the Wharf District. And Officer, would you report on the latest?
Yeah. I got a couple other things for you guys tonight. It was a pretty slow time, but I just wanted to go over this quick because somebody brought it to my attention twice. I know it's not regarding the Wharf District; it's about downtown, but I got it. Can you guys hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes. Now we can.
So a couple times somebody mentioned they didn't feel safe walking home from downtown crossing, and they wanted to know about the police presence down there. So I just want to share this with you quick. This is we started a thing called the Spring Initiative to clean up downtown. So this is we started it in April, and these are the numbers through the first week in December. So we got 980 arrests, 512 summonses, 299 sick assists, 64 Section 12s or 35s. And then we did overnight transports for people who didn't have a place to stay, 549. So I mean, we're down there. The Downtown Association just gave Captain Driscoll an award for all the work we've been doing down there. So I just wanted to assure you guys that we're there.
You have a sense, Officer, of how those numbers compare to, the previous year? Is that a big uptick compared to past, due to the spring initiative that went into place?
It's definitely way up. I don't have the exact downtown numbers. I do have the Wharf districts from 24 to 25. I was just about to go over those, but yeah, I don't. I know it's a lot more than 2024. I don't know how much more.
Thank you.
So for this is just for the Wharf area. For Part 1 crimes, for homicide, we didn't have any in 2024 or 2025. For rape or attempted, we had 3 in 2024 and none in 2025. Aggravated assault went down 29%. Street robbery went up. We went from only 1 in 2024 to 8 in 2025. So that's something we got to look out for. I think that's mostly the area around South Station from what I saw. Commercial burglary, about the same, 11 to 14. Residential, 1 in 2024, 1 in 2025. Larceny from a motor vehicle went down 43%. Other larcenies, which would include like shoplifting and package theft, that went from 111 down to 75. So that's a 32% decrease. For total violent crime in the Wharf area, it's down 5%. For property crimes, it's down 24%. And then we do these things called Code 19. That's where you see like an officer walk around or sit at a busy intersection to show some presence. We did 252 in 2024 and 332 in 25. So that's a 32% increase. So I know we're happy about that. And then I got some quality of life stuff too. Disturbance calls were down 18%. Fight calls, we had 57 in 24 and 58 in 25, so 2% increase. Calls for intoxicated persons went down from 351 to 281, so that's a 20% decrease. The only alarming number that I see here is noise complaints went from 30 to 63. So I know kind of around the time I started, there was a lot of complaints about the boats in the summer. I don't know if you guys have any other input on that, but I couldn't really think of anything else. But the total quality of life complaint 7% down.
That's very encouraging. Oh, everyone mute except for Officer Mastacchio. That's very encouraging.
Yeah, they look
Officer.
very happy with them.
If I,
Are you able?
oh, sorry, I
Yeah,
just
go
wanted
ahead.
to just chime in real just quick, especially focusing on the robbery and the commercial burglary. Well, we have to report by a system. So the feds, when they do our Part 1 classification, we have an individual who is shoplifting and they've been trespassed before, which we've been really good to trespass people who've been in places that, they've shoplifted for. It becomes and it upgrades to a commercial burglary. So it's not traditionally what I would ever consider a commercial burglary. I would consider a commercial burglary more of a break into an unoccupied residence, an unoccupied business, usually at night or when it's closed. But that is a kind of a statistical little, oddity if that's the best way I can describe that. So even those stats are actually really good because what we're doing is we just have more arrests of shoplifters. So, and same thing with the robbery stat. If you fight the clerk or you threaten the clerk or you threaten the security that's in a place while you're trespassed and you're in and you're shoplifting, they upgrade that to a robbery. So a lot of that stuff is actually trending in the right direction. But just to piggyback on what Mike said about sending us information, we use your feedback in our deployment decisions. So it's vital. It's really important to what we do. So and hopefully that noise spike is the tuba player and in the north end, but I don't know. But that's all I got.
Question, Captain. For a commercial property such as Faneuil Hall Marketplace, which springs to mind, which there are a lot of commercial businesses there, but I mean, shoplifting can take place in individual stores, or there could be, I don't know, pickpockets or purse snatches, like in the plaza there. How does that get meted out? Like how do you make the distinguish? When is it the job of security at Faneuil Hall Marketplace versus calling in the police?
Well, we have a great relationship with them. We just recently added 12 cameras to that area, and we just have a great shared information network, so that when problem individuals come onto the property, we share pictures and ID wanteds and trespass them and update them on that stuff. For the most part, they have their own store security. But if they're caught in the act of shoplifting, we'll come and respond. And basically, what we've been doing is we've just been arresting people for the shoplifting. On average, in 2024, we'll have to look. I'll have to find out how 2025 looked. But so for instance, was averaging about 120,000 a month in shrinkage and stolen shoplifted goods. Over 1 million in merchandise from sunglasses, hot there's places like that. So we've really tried to focus on where the places where the shoplifting happens the most, and where we can assist them with like target hardening and making sure that their merchandise is less vulnerable to the theft.
Great. Does anyone have any questions or
I have a question.
yeah, please.
Captain, you mentioned our feedback. How do you want to get feedback from us? What is the best way to reach you? 311 or what? What is the
311 if it ends up being in our if it's something that the police or public safety would handle is fine, but like even if it's filtered through the Wharf at the meetings, here or in between the meetings, email is best because I'll usually take it and forward it to the appropriate, or put it together in a presentation and just say, all right, let's, what can we do to problem solve it? So that would be best.
So folks can communicate to you through the Wharf District in terms of
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best, because sometimes you guys come across you have like embedded issues that we don't necessarily see, and they don't necessarily bubble up through 311 and 911. So that direct community reporting is huge.
Good.
Any other questions for our police officers? Anyone on Zoom have a question? Anything else you would care to share, Officer Stacchio?
Yeah, right.
Or
Captain, thank you for that. And those stats were from the brick, so if Rebecca's on, thank you for that. And Suzanne, anytime you guys have any concerns, you can just email me, and we'll talk about it. I got a couple of reports if you guys want me to go through them. Nothing major happened. We got a stolen package from Commercial Wharf on January 5th. That one's assigned to a detective. We have it came in as a break-in and enter-in at One International. Nothing was taken. They were going up to try to gain access to the roof, so I think it was more of kind of like thrill seekers type thing. But yeah, they got in there, but they didn't take anything. So we got pictures of them going around. And 5:15 on January 14th, I was actually present for this. We were assisting with traffic during rush hour, getting cars out of one of the garages on Conger Street. A group of mopeds, scooters, I want to call them, were going down the bike lane, almost hit a couple cars, doing wheelies. There was 3 of them. We were able to grab one of them. So we seized his scooter, and he was charged. So I know that's a big problem. When we can get them, we try to. But if anyone has any questions or anything, that's all I got.
personal observation, but since the initial initiative that you undertook to sort of crack down on the scooters and delivery vehicles, it really seems to have made a difference. I know that maybe it's the seasonality right now that it might be more prevalent in warmer weather, but I don't know if folks can make their own attestments here. But that's, from what I can tell, it's much improved. I think that the rules that were put in place and the enforcement that was put in place really has helped the behaviors out there, as far as I can tell.
Yeah,
so thank you.
No, but I think the biggest thing too was when they're all, not all of them, we would like to see all of them, but for the most part, they are registered. They do have plates now, so we see right direction.
Great. Well, thank you for all your efforts. Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Officer. And I see Sean Wallace is on the call. So thank you all. Any other questions? Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate all the good work you do in our community.
Before I go, just thank you guys again for the toy drive. We got a lot of toys this year. It was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure.
We enjoyed doing it.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. And we are now, I think we're going to have Kathy Abbott. And you all heard, if you just joined the call recently, Kathy Abbott is here, who is the president and CEO of Boston Harbor Now, a great organization. And I, for one, noticed that as far as winter on the waterfront goes, I saw a lot more ice sculptures this year, and that was really fun to walk around and see all of that. And also, Kathy will talk about the upcoming year. So, Kathy, it's great to have you.
Thank you, Matt. It's really great to be here. I'm really sorry I missed the Christmas soiree. I wasn't here. So it's nice to finally get here and give a chance to update them. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kathy Abbott. I'm the president and CEO at Boston Harbor Now. And I have worked off and on the harbor over the years in a whole variety of different roles. But really came back 10 years ago to start up Boston Harbor Now, which was the merger of the former Boston Harbor Association, which hopefully you all know. They were involved in the cleanup and very involved over the past decades in creating the Harbor Walk, and the Boston Harbor Island Alliance, which I was the first CEO of, that helped to create the Boston Harbor Islands National Park area. Really, it was a chance to, the National Parks of Boston had merged into a single National Parks of Boston. So the Navy Yard, the African American Meeting House, and the Harbor Islands had merged into one national park that sort of coincided with this nonprofit merger. And it also happened at a time when we are, many of us have been working on access to the harbor for years, knowing that we were first involved in cleaning it up. We knew once the water got clean that there was going to be a big demand and there was going to be a lot of economic development. And we wanted to continue to make sure that everybody would have access to the harbor, hence the Harbor Walk, and a focus on access. But what was different starting 10 or 15 years ago was also the focus on climate and the need for climate resiliency as equal to, if not greater than, at this point in time, the access. So Boston Harbor Now has grown up. This is 2006 is our 10-year anniversary. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But we are now very much focused pretty equally on public access to the harbor and protect. We talk about getting people to the harbor and protecting people from it in terms of the accessibility piece and the resiliency piece. Also talk about the harbor as a public health resource as well as an economic resource, and really are going to be doing a lot in the coming year to try to figure out, to work with others to communicate those values more effectively to folks.
Kathy, can I ask you to talk about your background, how you came to...
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you have my PowerPoint?
I do.
There was a slide in there about me and I made him take it out. I realized a lot of you don't know me, so I should have kept it in. So my background.
Excuse me, are you showing slides? Are there slides? Because if there are slides, we're not seeing them at the moment.
You have to share us.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry. Take care of that.
It's that green one.
Where is it?
I'm good. I'm down in
There
down
it
in the
is.
middle.
There it is. Took me a minute to find it. Sharing is not turned on. Mark, can you...
Yeah.
Allow sharing. How do you do that?
Sharing is caring.
I could be talking about myself while they figure this out.
Yeah.
So. And parks, actually. My early education, later in public sector administration. And I started as a kid, summers, as a park ranger out on the Harbor Islands, as an island manager. That was an internship for my college program. And I did that 2 years running. And when I graduated with my undergraduate degree in landscape architecture and regional planning,
I got a job working for the state park system as a planner and for the Boston Harbor Islands, and did a master plan for those islands, the second master plan back in the early 80s. Anyway, that morphed into about a 12-year career in state government, which was wonderful and very exciting. And the since have been mostly in nonprofits, in sort of C-suite roles. I've ended up in a career doing sort of startups, turnarounds, and mergers of nonprofits and public sector agencies. Why, I'm not exactly sure. It's very stressful, but it's also really exciting and productive. And the most recent one being Boston Harbor Now. My last public sector job, I went back into state government briefly. Unknowingly, when I left state government in 92, I think, under Governor Weld, I had said, if they ever decided to merge the MDC and the DEM, I'd love to be the first commissioner of that agency. And never in a million years thinking it would ever happen or that it would be me. And the only reason I got that job is because I was the CEO of the organization that was creating the national park on the islands. And it was a very successful public-private model of developing and managing that national park. It's the only national park like it in the country. So there was an idea that maybe we could do that statewide for the 450,000 acres that the Commonwealth owns. Anyway, left that and then was running a number of other nonprofits locally. I ran the trustees for a while. Went out, ran the New England Botanic Garden out in Boylston for a few years. And then this idea there was a desire on the part of the philanthropic community to have fewer nonprofits on the harbor. And so there was this push for these organizations to merge, and I was asked to come back and start it up. So that was 10 years ago. This is the longest job I've ever had, and hopefully will be my crowning achievement. We'll see. Anyway.
So try it one more time, Matthew.
Yeah, Mark, how's it look?
I'm working on it. Sorry.
Permission. Are you able to make me the host, Mark? Would that?
Maybe. Not yet. No, I keep going. Keep going.
This doesn't look as good in small scale, but that's the 10-year anniversary.
Yay.
To remind me to say we're 10 years old. It is a big deal because when you start up something, so this is both a merger and a startup, and you never know. It may work, it may not. It's been incredibly rewarding and incredibly successful, and we don't do anything that isn't in partnership with others. So we're designed to partner with the city government, the state government, the federal government, with other nonprofits and for-profits. And so that is how we operate. And couldn't accomplish anything without most of you in this room and a whole lot of other people as well. Really, now I hate text-heavy slides, but it's also supposed to be my notes. So looking forward to a really exciting busy harbor in 2026 with FIFA coming and bringing hundreds of thousands of people to Boston, with the tall ships and with the 250th. So we are really prepared for an onslaught, or trying to be prepared. We also think there's some really important decisions that are going to be being made in the next few years, particularly around the access pieces, around the resiliency pieces, around the public health that I mentioned, and the economic role that the harbor plays. We feel like it's a really pivotal time. And I should also say that Boston Harbor Now is grounded in the Harbor Walk, based on the organizations that formed us. Harbor Walk is foundational. The islands are foundational, and the harbor itself is foundational. So it's really knitting all of those three things together, which has been an exciting opportunity. And lately we've always been in the business of sort of using data, connecting policy, and then on the ground action with our partners, actual implementation on a regular basis. And it's mostly, we don't own and operate anything, which is another reason we work in partnership with those who do steward, protect, and invest. And then we try to bring private sector resources into that equation on a regular basis, and expertise to kind of advance the ball. In terms of the substance areas that we are focusing on, this year, 2026 is was anybody at the Onboard Awards at the Harbor Hotel a couple weeks ago? Yeah. Okay, so this is a little bit of a mini repeat. But when we came back and Harbor Walk was such a foundational piece, we coined Harbor Walk. I did an op-ed, I think, in the first year or two I was in this role about calling it Harbor Walk 2.0. And the idea was adding resiliency to the access equation. This year in 2026, or actually it was at the end of 2025, so we have been working in a volunteer capacity with the city on the Harbor Walk for 40 years, both creating it and ensuring that it was well managed and maintained and programmed, etc. This past year, at the end of 2025, for the first time, we signed an MOU with the city of Boston, making us a formal partner for them on the Harbor Walk, which we're really excited about. We also raised $500,000, so a little bit from among others, to, for the first time ever, hire a manager of the Harbor Walk. So we have Jason Rundle, who some of you may know, he worked for Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. Terrific guy who has come on to be our senior Harbor Walk manager. And it's his job to be, where to go? Implementing.
Try sharing now, please.
There we go. Yep, you're sharing.
Not yet, almost.
Hello.
Yeah.
And as I said, preparing the waterfront for the rising tide and the increased storms. It's also about preparing the citizenry to be better educated, more knowledgeable, and better equipped to deal with it.
Is everyone on Zoom seeing the slide
Yeah.
now?
Yes, thanks. Yes.
Connections. And it's about programming, it's about communications, and it's about practical implementation of that. And I didn't mention the equity piece, but equity's been a major piece of the organization's work from the beginning, both on the islands and on the Harbor Walk. Because in terms of the islands, we always knew there'd be a significant cost involved in getting to those islands. And so knowing that there was always going to be needing to be some subsidy to help folks who needed and wanted to access that place. And then in terms of the Harbor Walk, to make sure we knew when the harbor got clean and that it really started to drive the economy around the harbor, that everybody would feel welcome and be able to come and use the waterfront as it evolved and was developed. So we did a big project. We did a big project, and it took a couple of years to do this project. The Waterfront Visitation and Equity Study. It's going to be becoming available online, I think, at the end of this week or next week. And it uses anonymous cell phone data. It was really easy for us. We wanted to be able to track how we were doing in terms of programming and communication about these resources and encouraging people to use them to know how we were doing, who was coming, who wasn't, what were they doing, how long were they staying, how often did they come, how long did they stay, et cetera, et cetera. And we could figure that out for the Harbor Islands pretty easily, at least in terms of how many people were riding the ferries. We could never get a handle on the Harbor Walk. How many people are going down and walking on the Harbor Walk, and who is it, and what are they doing? And we worked with the city over the years trying to come up with a way to measure that, and we never came up with one that we all could agree on and get going on. So we undertook this. We raised some serious money from one of the bigger foundations in town to do this cell phone data study. And that we looked at data from, was it 19, 20, 21, 22, 18, 19, 20. Don't remember which 3 or 4 years, but it was over a period of years and it included the COVID years. So it's a little bit of a weird time. But what we found is what you see on the screen. Probably the biggest news was that the Harbor Walk, and we're talking about, we were looking at the entire 47 miles, and we defined it, there was a near-term sort of border of the Harbor Walk itself, and then a wider border, which was sort of considered, I think it was about a half a mile in of the waterfront. But to that near term, that short, the narrow border of Harbor Walk, 11 million visits a year. Not visit tours, but visits. So that could be some of the same people going back. It did sort out people who commuted on it, who walk out their door and then walk down to their job. They would end up getting filtered out. But everybody else was in. So that's huge. That, we've always wanted to be have the harbor be as significant as the Freedom Trail or Fenway Park or Faneuil Hall. And well, lo and behold, the Harbor Walk is actually seeing many more people than the Freedom Trail, at least as far as we know. On the hard side, the other thing that it showed was that since COVID, when things slowed down during COVID, and the fact that so many people haven't returned to the city, and so the best data we could get was racial data. There was a lot of things we tried to get and couldn't, but we were able to figure out, because you can tell based on where people are coming from, there are some assumptions made. The number of white visitors to the Harbor Walk has declined significantly and has not grown back much. And we think it relates to people not coming back into the city more to work. The number of users, people of color who use the Harbor Walks, actually quite high, and it was quite high during COVID. But it has sort of fallen off, and what it's okay, but it's not equal to that population distribution in the city. Which are the neighborhoods that are connecting and which are the neighborhoods that are not, and what might we need to do to try to bridge that gap. So that study we're doing one thing that Christian wanted me to mention, is that we're going to do a summit this spring based on the study with the Coalition for a Resilient and Inclusive Waterfront, and everybody involved in all of that organization, as well as the work that we've been doing, to talk about where do we go with this, what do we do with it, and mostly it's good news that it's a really important piece of the public infrastructure, and people know about it and they're using it. I remember I was in a meeting of the Wharf District Council about a year ago, and there was a young woman who I was talking to. She was talking about really enjoying coming out and walking on the waterfront. She had no idea what the Harbor Walk was, or that she was using the Harbor Walk. So I think there is still a huge amount of work to be done to kind of brand it and help people know that this is part of a 43-mile accessible waterfront in the city of Boston, which is really unusual and incredibly important thing to have. So next slide. So in terms of what we're doing with the information, probably one of the most important things is the down at the bottom there, the program and marketing strategy. So, and it includes, by the way, not just Harbor Walks, but also the islands. So we're going to be using the information from the study to help formulate our programming strategy and communication strategy for the waterfront Harbor Islands for the next couple of years. I mentioned the hiring of the Harbor Walk manager in the MOU. We also, in partnership with the Friends of the Boston Harbor Walk, we've hired Michael to work with us to do a survey of the conditions of the entire 47 miles of the Harbor Walk and documenting that, so that we can start to work with the property owners. We'll also be formulating a list of all the property owners along the Harbor Walk. There are 368 parcels and about 128 owners and managers. So we will be looking to get everybody together and start hopefully to work more together to maximize the benefits of this. There's the Harbor Walk web tool that we created 5 or 6 years ago, so I can't remember exactly, but it hasn't been updated or improved since. And we got some funding recently to do a significant upgrade of the Harbor Walk web tool, so that'll be exciting.
Kelly,
Yeah.
may I ask a question about the Harbor Walk?
Yeah.
What is the relationship between Boston Harbor now and its ownership, so to speak, of the Harbor Walk and the city of Boston? And obviously with 43 miles, it takes in other communities out of Boston, but it seems like there's a...
Well, that's just Boston, it's the 43 miles.
Okay.
Other communities have their waterfront walks that
Okay.
are not the Harbor Walk.
So what is that relationship?
So what's unique about the Harbor Walk is it's created by the existence of something called Chapter 91, which I'm sure you guys have talked about ad infinitum in here. Any land in the Commonwealth that used to be wet, either wetlands or water, had a right to those lands. And even though they have been filled and are now dry land, the public still has a right. It's by virtue of that Chapter 91 was written about 40 or 50 years ago, that codified that, and that is really what has been behind the creation of Harbor Walk. But Harbor Walk, for the most part, I mean, the city only owns 16% of the water. DCR owns almost 50%, I think. The feds own a little tiny amount, and about 35% is privately owned. So much of the harbor walk is on private land, so that it's on these individual parcels owned by these folks. And they're just, when somebody goes to develop a piece of waterfront land, one of the things that they are told that they need to do is to create a harbor walk on the waterfront side of their property. There's lots of other things that they're often asked to do in terms of facilities of public accommodation, public benefits, the kinds of retail, the kinds of public spaces and arts and culture support and that kinds of thing that property developers are asked to do, which is why it's very hard to brand it, because there's no consistency from owner to owner. There's different surfaces, there's different lighting fixtures, there's different benches, there's different, it's been done over 40 years. So it's really quite an eclectic mix of places.
Fortunately, it's great signage kind of tying it together.
And then we have this incredible sign that the Friends of the Boston Harbor Walk have been producing under Liz's leadership forever now. It seems like forever.
It's forever.
How many signs now?
72.
72 signs. Incredible. And the quality has just gotten better and better. They've added languages to it. You've added a whole, what other improvements have you made to the signs? I don't know.
Well, there's audio recordings of all of them, so I think we're the only signs out there where you can scan a code
It's a QR
and immediately get an audio recording for folks with visual impairments.
Yeah. And they really tell the story of the neighborhood and the place in which you are standing and experiencing the harbor walk. So I have not walked the whole 43 miles yet, but I really want to. Like, if anybody wants to join me, let me know about that.
In the summertime.
In the summertime, I know. We brought Luke's Lobster to the Welcome Center last year on the Greenway. Thank you, Chris Cook. That was a huge success, and we'll be bringing Luke's back again this summer. And then next slide, the resiliency piece of this work we have been doing. We along with UMass Boston were the two primary organizations involved in the founding of the Stone Living Lab. The lab came into being because one of our board members, Kathy Stone, who is a longtime supporter and has been involved in the national park since before it was a national park, was asking the question. This was about the time I came back. The islands have been really seriously eroding, more in the last 10 or 15 or 20 years than prior. When I lived out there as a kid on one of them as a ranger, most of those granite seawalls built out of the Quincy granite, built in the late 1800s, early 1900s, were completely intact. Now they're almost completely not intact and falling into the harbor. And really a lot of that has been in the last 10 to 20 years. And it's because we think of the rising tide and the increased severity of the storms. So Kathy had this is when we were dredging the channel for the new Panamax ships to be able to come in about 10 years ago. And we were hoping that maybe we could get some of those dredge spoils to add them to the islands to kind of bulk them up to keep them going. Well, we looked into that and we were too late, but we did do a study with Woods Hole Group to say, do the islands play, we'd always said they did, but we were making it up. Do the islands really play a role in helping to protect the greater Boston region from the impact of storms? And those big storms that we had in 2018, when we had the dumpster coming down the street in the seaport, and we had the water coming up, up State Street, Woods Hole Group took that data and modeled it, and they show we had 15 or 20 foot waves out off the Brewsters. That's about 7 nautical miles out. And in the modeling showed that as those waves came in and landed on Carson Beach in South Boston, they were 2 to 3 feet high. And you could see the islands absorbing the energy as it went. So we now talk about the islands as our first line of defense in the climate resiliency side of things. Anyway, so that led to the founding of the Stone Living Lab. We couldn't get the dredge spoils, but we really wanted to use the islands as a resource, as a place to experiment, to find out what are the nature-based kind of ideas that might work, like all those eroded seawalls. Could those be used as boulder fields to help soften the impacts of incoming seas? Could we do something with cobble berms on the beach? Could we do seawater, marsh restoration? Could we What else? What was it?
Bubble worms.
Travel berms I mentioned, boulder fields. Anyway, so that's how the lab came to be. The lab is now located at UMass Boston. And Katie Dafford's the director. Joe is the founding director and continues on as the chief resiliency officer. He's also the chief resiliency officer at Boston Harbor now. So we continue to work in collaboration. And the education and engagement staff and the communication staff that Joe oversees are all at Boston Harbor now and work on the lab work from there. And we support the lab in a number of ways. We're also really focused on, I also co-chair the Climate Resiliency Working Group of the Boston Green Ribbon Commission, which is a really wonderful group of those of us working on the waterfront in resiliency. And we have just last Friday received a number of responses to an RFP. We're undertaking a funding study. There's three big problems or challenges to climate resiliency work right now. The first one is permitting. That's something else that we're working on. We have a piece of legislation up in the State House right now to enable nature-based work. We also have been working with the administration on the permit streamlining and reform. The state's been doing great work, not as strong on the urban permitting reform as they are on some of the statewide stuff. And the second big problem is financing. How are we going to pay for all of this? The climate ready plans that the Green Ribbon Commission is responsible for identified somewhere between $4 to $10 billion worth of work that needs to be done to protect the coastline, and it's probably going to be much bigger than that by the time we get around to doing it all. How are we going to pay for that? We know there needs to be private ways to fund it. We know there need to be public sources of funding. We just had a meeting on it of the Green Ribbon Commission just this morning. And then
Is this in addition to the billions that the Army Corps of Engineers will do?
It's included in the Army Corps of Engineer billions that we're going to hope they're going to pay to us. They will, ideally, they're going to be providing 60% of all of these dollars that need to be funded. And the third thing that's hampering us is governance. So when you start talking about raising all this money, well, who's going to be in charge of spending it, and how is that going to? And we were talking about that in the meeting this morning as well. That gets really sticky really fast. So we're at Boston Harbor now. We're really focused on the funding piece in our work with the Green Ribbon Commission, and we also staff that committee of the commission, and very focused on the permit reform. There's lots of people focused on permit reform, but it's a major focus of ours. Education and engagement. Joe's got a phenomenal team who's been doing some very focused work through Stone Living Lab. Boston Harbor now has a small team of program people, and they're beginning to work together and figuring how do we incorporate climate education and engagement and awareness into all the programming that Boston Harbor now does on the waterfront and on the islands, and how do we do a better job of getting that message and that word out, and working with the smaller neighborhood organizations to support that kind of education. Because one of the things that I learned when I first came back, thanks to some of the work that Vivian and Julie Wormser had been doing at TBHA, was just how important social resiliency was, how really important it is to have the communities really well informed and understanding what the risks are and what the opportunities are in terms of dealing with those risks and dealing with your own safety and your when things go awry. And then last but not least, project implementation. That's a picture of the living seawall in East Boston. We'll go back one for a second. So that's Joe and I had the pleasure of meeting the Prince and Princess a few years ago when they were here for the Earthshot Prize. And one of the cool things that happened that the Prince asked of us, the Prince really wanted to see one of the winners from one of the companies that had been picked in the first year of Earthshot, wanted to see it applied in the second year city. And we were the second year city. And this is a company a woman-owned company from Australia that had been a finalist. And we looked at that and said, we could implement those here in Boston. So we did. And it's going swimmingly. We were the first in the North America, first site in North America. They're out of Australia. They put them in a number of other countries. They're testing a number of different coastal types and sea level, temperatures and ecologies. We've got two of them here. The first two, there are going to be a lot more, we think. And this is not green, and this is not nature based. This is greening gray infrastructure. So you drill these onto the granite seawalls that we have all over Boston Harbor. And we've got one in East Boston at Condor Street Urban Wild, right down the street from a school. They're also a wonderful educational vehicle. And then we've got the other one at Fan Pier in the little inlet there that's over there. You'll see it on one side, and that's in partnership with the Children's Museum in terms of the educational component.
And you should note that this picture was taken on the day of installation in November 2024, so they look much more green and vibrant now. There's seaweed and scales, mussels, all sorts of stuff all over.
Yeah. So
What is it made of?
it's concrete. And it's a unique mixture of concrete, and they played with that mixture a lot, trying to encourage, snails, mussels, oysters, seaweed to grow in shapes and concrete mix. But that's just one. We're talking a lot with the city of Boston about those climate ready plans have identified 100 projects to be done. And they've broken them down into what needs to be done by 2030, 2050, and 2070. And we are committed to trying to help them make those projects happen. We're also very committed to working with, in terms of educating the public, because of the Army Corps study. We want to make sure the city is very interested in having people of Boston be not just willing to accept whatever we are handed, but to have our own ideas. And Wharf District Council is what we all hold up as the example of being way out front in terms of really working on this and coming up with your own ideas and what you want to see. Most neighborhoods are not where you are, so we want to try to help make that happen. So that when that study is done and ready to implement, that people in the communities are having contributing to what the results are going to be. I think the next slide. So I said we're 10 years old. We're going to have our big party this year. We're not doing spectacle on spectacle. We're going to do spectacle Boston Harbor. We are going to do it in East Boston at the Tall Ship site. And it will be our tent, partly because we hope more people can come and will come. It'll be easier. We are still going to use boats to get back and forth across the harbor as an important part of the event that people love. But it's June 9th, and hope you all will put that on your calendars and come help us celebrate the 10 years. It's been quite a ride. So I think there's one more, and that's my contact information. Feel free to call or write anytime. Any questions, comments?
A question if I stop coughing. You would expect this question from me. Is George's Island going to be open this summer?
I knew you were going to ask that. As a matter of fact, I just met, so we have a new commissioner at DCR, relatively new, Nicole LaChapelle, and we also have a new superintendent at the National Park, Tarona Armstrong. And that, I will tell you that the National Park has been hit really, really hard. So for any of you who know the National Park, they would appreciate any words of encouragement you can give them. But in that meeting, we talked about George's. And as of right now, they've got the water working. And so we are planning to have it open. The DCR they've done a short term, they've tried to cap it. Because what happens is the water to George's comes from bulk. It's in a PVC pipe that lies, I think it's PVC pipe. It lies across the bottom. So it often gets hit with an anchor or snagged with lobster trap or who knows what happens, but it gets broken on a fairly regular basis. They're going to drill it. They're going to put it underneath the bottom, but that's a big expensive project and it's going to take them a little while to do that. So meanwhile, it's sitting on top. They've covered it as best they could. This year, they're going to buoy it. They're going to put a line of buoys to try to warn people away from it in the hopes that helps. But so yes, George's should be should be. What was amazing last summer is we didn't have George's open all summer long. And we actually had more visitors than we had the year before at Spectacle and a little bit at Paddock. So the nice thing about that was the sense that the demand for the islands, because that really got hit by COVID hard, is coming good, which is great. Yeah. Any other questions?
Any questions from those on Zoom for Kathy Abbott?
What do you do in your spare time, Dad?
Spare time? I don't know. I'm not sure I have a whole lot.
I don't think so.
Kathy?
Yes.
I do have a question. On the financing study, can you tell us a little bit more detail on where you're at on that and schedule and who's included and
Yeah.
that sort of thing?
Yep. So the RFPs just came in on Friday. We got 8 of them. We're going to be reviewing those and selecting the entity that we're going to work with. The plan is it's going to be about an 18-month study. And this is taking into account the study that the state just did and kind of trying to build on that. And the goal is really to try to come up with some new ideas. And we all know there's not that many of those out there. But we're really going to be, it originally started out, I should say, based, you probably know this, Mark, but when we first started down this road, we were going to do 2 case studies.
Right.
And one was the Wharf District Council plan.
Right.
And one is the city's work on Border Street, to actually figure out, well, how do we fund this thing? And that got derailed. I'm not exactly sure how, but now it's a more typical, a broader look at who's doing what where around the country and the globe. And are there any models out there that we think we can bring back here to Boston, or things that exist that we can tweak one way or another, or whole new ideas? And it's going to be challenging. And one of the things we'll be looking to do over the course of the study, besides educating the public about climate resiliency in general, is just what it's going to cost and what it's going to take, because there's going to require some political will at the end of the day to create whatever public sources of funds are needed, and private as well.
Great.
So,
Well, can I just offer that we did have Arup do a much more cursory study of financing options than I'm sure this study will take on. So I want to make sure that you know that that stuff is available to you, of course.
Right.
And also, we have engaged one of our consultant groups to do a study of what's happening in other major cities around the country.
Great.
Primarily having to do with their community engagement efforts, but inevitably that'll have some associated finances or financing discussions. So let's make sure that we don't duplicate efforts and coordinate a little bit here.
I can't tell you how much the Wharf District Council is appreciated for the way in which you all have been at the front edge of this from the get-go. I think, the respect and appreciation is just huge. What's the timing on the engagement piece of work that you've got going on?
It just kicked off. If you're talking about what other cities are currently doing.
Yeah, the survey of what other.
Yeah, we are starting on that, but there are a lot of components on it. Arup has done some of it. They know the ones that they're not doing. Maybe we want to do broad surveys, or maybe we want to do different aspects, looking at the same cities. I don't really know, but let's talk some more.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks.
I was going to ask about this communication with the public. What is the message that you want to share? What do you want people to do, the call to action?
Don't know yet. We're working on that this winter. So we're working with an organization called Berkeley Media Studies Group out of California, Berkeley. It's really more of the public health messaging than anything, but so it doesn't go as far as I think we want to go on the resiliency side of things, but it'll also be part of that programming and communication strategy work that BHM just got the RFPs on to take a look at how we're gonna do this, because it's challenging. It's got all kinds of unique challenges. To have it be constructive and not fear mongering, and be positive and not overwhelming. And,
yeah. And Kathy, I was going to talk about it a little bit later, but you are familiar with the kiosks that we're working on, and Joanna's asked the question, what is the call to action that we have on those as well. So I think we have a fairly good idea of what it is, what the general direction that we're headed. But I am fascinated by the effort that you've put into getting the cell phone data, and it makes you realize that there are ways of gathering information that may be quite different than the way we used to do it. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, please join me in thanking Kathy for a very informative presentation. Stay for the rest of the meeting, or we're welcome to leave. If you have time commitments, you'd like to be elsewhere. So, is anyone from Conventures on the call? I'm not sure if we had. We were expecting someone from Conventures, but they may not have been able to attend this evening. Is anyone from Conventures on the Zoom? In that case, I think we can actually transition directly to the Climate Resiliency Project. Mark, can you give an update?
Sure. Thanks. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today, but so there are 4 things that we have as major initiatives underway at the moment, thanks to the funding that we received from the state and the members. The first is that we have engaged a consulting team of Lauren Shurtleff and Heather Camposano to study the ownership of all of the properties along our portion of the waterfront, and that includes the relationships of the properties, the people who own the land and the water and the leases and the easements and the governmental and non-governmental entities that have specific control over our 1.5 miles. We have a fairly good idea about some of it and no idea about some of the other, and some of it is changing. And so they're going to do a comprehensive, and by the way, there are easements and utility components to it that traverse the district. So we're trying to understand all of that in a fair amount of detail, and who to be able to contact about it to make sure that they are engaged. So Heather and Lauren are going to do a good job on that. We should have that completed in the next, 6 to 8 weeks. So it's most other communities, frankly, are not as complex as ours is. But when you think about the MBTA and the various public and private ferries and the places where they dock and lots of this stuff, obviously, Kathy, you and your folks know, but we don't have it all put together into one place. So that will be, I think, a great thing to have. We are creating, and Boston Harbor Now is part of this group that we've pulled together to create a series of 4 to 6 kiosks, and the kiosks are going to be temporary, but should be in place prior to the FIFA and Tall Ships visitors. And they will be highlighting the water storm level challenges that will be faced between now and 2070. And so the water levels will be illustrated on these kiosks that are going to be 3 feet wide and 8 feet tall. There will be a call to action, and there will be a series of QR codes or some other ways for people to be able to reference, get quick reference to our videos and some of the other information that we've gotten. So we are looking as a part of this effort to find ways of garnering feedback from people and putting that together in some sort of useful way to be able to share with others, so that we have some idea of the whatever it is 3 million visitors that we're expecting between spring and next fall, what level of interest they might be able to add to our collective effort. We have engaged Arup to do a study of the size and configuration of the stormwater tanks that will be necessary for, if you all read that article, Norm, thank you for sending that around to many of us. it was in the Times this weekend, I think it was, Norm, was it? Yeah. About some of the major challenges that New York City faces, even as they're building their climate resilience around their perimeter, dealing with the stormwater management that is coming with these more intense storms. And so we have identified locations within our master plan for where we think these tanks need to go. We have had discussions with Boston Water and Sewer. They are quite certain that they do not want to have pumps. And so if you cannot have if they are going to be gravity operated, they need to be a different configuration than just a generic pump, and so a generic tank. And so Arup is doing a study on that. And finally, we have O'Neill and Associates continuing our engagement efforts with our various legislators and representatives in the city and state and federal governments to make them aware of our sense of urgency around these issues. And they will also be helping us with our increased social media presence and engagement with people outside of our district, so that when the time comes for the rest of Massachusetts to have to pony up for some of the funds that are going to be necessary, they all need to understand why it is in their interest as well. In addition, they'll be helping us with this study on what other cities around the country and perhaps around the world are doing, so that just as we have tried to share our successes through our handbook with other communities around Massachusetts and around the world, I think it's important for us to accept the fact that there are smart people everywhere, and we should all be learning from each other, not just trying to invent this each independently. So hopefully we will learn who's doing good stuff, how to reach out to them. We have been invited by some of the other communities in the Boston area to, through their legislators, to meet with them and talk a little bit about how we've gone about our efforts, and we look forward to doing that in the coming year. And I think that's the summary. Anybody else on our task force who'd like to add to that report?
This is Matthew. I would just like to encourage everyone to follow us on social media and to share. We are Wharf District Council, primarily on LinkedIn and on Instagram. I believe we maybe are on Facebook as well, but those are the two primary channels that O'Neill and Associates are focusing on in the outreach efforts with social media. So please follow us, and if there's a post that you like, please share it, like it, and share it.
Yeah. Also share it with other people who might be interested in supporting the Wharf District Council. It's an easy thing to become an associate member, and our newest collateral is available on our website if you want to look at that. And if you know somebody who might be interested, please share that collateral with them so they have a better idea of what we're doing. And Kathy, I hope that I think that presentation that you did for us was on Suzanne's laptop, perhaps. I thought that was a really, really great thing. And we of course always have meeting minutes, but if it's okay with you, I'd like to share that with our membership, because I think it's a great summary of what you've been at to, and it's, we all know you're doing good stuff, but it was such a comprehensive list of things that I think it's important for everybody else to know how important it is that you're taking on these challenges the way you are.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here, here.
It's supposed to be the short list just for 2026.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else regarding the climate resiliency project? All right. Well, we have a couple folks here who can talk about some winter activities here in the Wharf District. Things are going on, yeah.
Right.
So Chris Cook is here with us. And Chris, always nice to have you here.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. A few quick announcements on the Greenway Conservancy end of things. Perhaps most exciting, in February, adjacent to Joanne's Park, Christopher Columbus Water Park, right at the carousel. For the entire month of February, we'll have a 70-foot Ferris wheel, which will be a lot of fun. People fall in love with the Ferris wheel, get proposed to on the
Really not the show.
BB Warren downtown crossing. So that's really exciting. Hours can be 12 to 8. Very, very grateful to the Massachusetts Department of Transportation as well as the City of Boston for the permitting. As you can imagine, it's been an interesting conversation putting a Ferris wheel on. But that has been a lot of fun. It'll be part of Frostival, which is Meet Boston's winter activity, which is really connecting Copley Square through Boston Common to City Hall Plaza to the waterfront. So Meet Boston's really leaning into winter to try to make that, Boston more of a winter destination. Along those lines, we're also 4 partners with the Downtown Business Alliance, formerly the Downtown Business Improvement District, in their winter activities. Very grateful to partner with them. If you haven't been to Dewey Square, there's these magnificent, 15-foot tall flowers that light up. You press a button, they make some music. The music is alive, so it has this wonderful kinetic energy. It's really fun for kids or those who are young at heart. And it's a really nice pop of color in the middle of winter, in the desolate tundra of Dewey Square, the entrance to downtown. And then perhaps what most of you have noticed, we have a major construction project happening in the park right now. We have a lot of construction fencing up. We have a really wonderful contractor, Daigle. They're primarily an electrical contractor because the work is lighting, pathways, and power. So parcels 19, 21, and 22. Folks remember that was supposed to be a long time ago, the Massachusetts Horticultural Society Garden Under Glass. It's always a good idea. The funding just didn't happen. Because of that, there was an interim solution for those parcels. Those parcels don't have permanent pathways. We can't remove snow from them in the winter. We can't activate them really in the summer without generators. There's no interior lighting in those parcels. Very dangerous at night, especially as the trees are built in. So that's a $4.5 million upgrade that's happening to those parcels. And it's all going to be done in time for 2026. So when folks are coming out of the South Station to visit Boston straight from the games or to go check out the ships, we're really going to put our best foot forward. The park's going to be looking absolutely fantastic. A few odds and ends, but the big other thing is at the March meeting, if I can, we'd like to present the direction we're moving in for the drinkery in front of the hotel. So if we could get on the agenda for that, and happy to answer any questions, but those are my updates.
Chris, I have a question. Sure, of course. I will likely be among first in line. Sure. Ferris wheel. And
Might be the only one depending.
oh, nice. Oh,
Yeah.
Now, would that be ticketed?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I should have mentioned that. So we're going to keep it the same price as the carousel. And we are going to run the carousel for the first time ever in the winter on the weekends as part of this, and for the entirety of February break. So we'll have like a mini winter festival right there on the Greenway. So that should be pretty exciting. That being said, we want to make sure this thing works. So we're going to have a friends and family night. So I'll extend the invite to that just to make sure. But if we don't charge you on that night, you can't get mad at us. You get stuck up there for an hour or something like that. You didn't spend the $4. Right. So we'll zip that around. We're really excited about it. The thing is, it's not that big. It's 70 feet, but the thing is, the north end is so low. You have these really dramatic views of the bend and the waterfront, and then the custom house on the other side. So, and then the HD and my favorite park. So yeah, I think we're excited.
That's the one.
Many people.
64 at any one time. Yeah. Yeah, it's called forward.
Really?
There's no, it's not enclosed. So there is a wind, at a certain.
On the park?
There's a certain speed that we have to bring it down. But we have the ability to bring it down.
You should sell one. Yeah.
If it works, maybe we would bring it back for more than a month next year. But we want to make sure that people really love it. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to sneak in a permanent alteration to the neighborhood. Want to make sure that everyone really, really enjoys it. I will say Nura and Nunic have been fantastic conversations. Yeah.
Thank you. And
The favorite one.
Joanne, he's right.
Just to put on the store, for those of you who don't know, my family is called Granny Store. I hope all of you have seen gorgeous blue lights. And they've been up since the Thursday before Thanksgiving. We had a fabulous event. The mayor was there and she held baby Mia the entire time. That child is a year old, so this is not a tiny baby. And some weight she was carrying. But it was a wonderful event. Somebody I know from Harvard Towers was there and said, honestly, I think there were thousands of people. And it could have been an exaggeration, but it is just every year it's possible it grows. The weather was really in our favor. It was a lovely evening, it was windy, it was crazy. And so, but the way this works, and you're all sort of secrecy. So the way that they count down, it's countdown 10 to 1. And the mayor starts it. And the kids are all yelling, they're already saying it. And so when the switch hits, the lights go on. Except not this year. So the secret is that the electrician is in the shed and he hears the 1 and he didn't get the high sign from somebody. We didn't yell loud enough. And you should have seen everything just
It's a slight delay. Just a slight delay.
just a slight delay, I know. But he handed it to me, I think it's so it was all gorgeous when it went on. And now, in just a few days, they'll be putting up the framework for about 10-foot parts on the trellis. There's one at each end of the 3 trellises. So when you stand, you get that effect of big, littler dimension. And so they'll go up, and we have a company that does that, and then they will go on February 1st, or maybe a couple of days earlier, depending on the weather, or when the electricians can get in there, it's weather dependent. And this is the 9th year. And it is the brainchild of one of our members, his board member, Robin Reed. She's an artist. And when she first came up with the idea, she, with the help of a friend, made the frames, the metal frames for the hearts, but they were only 1 at each end. And then she put them up. And then we also have the 5 feet tall candy hearts, say, be mine. So that first year they were cardboard. So she cut them all out of cardboard, and a bunch of us were at the Nazaro Center painting them. We didn't write anything because none of us could do that right, but Robin got all that done. Cardboard. I think and the intention was just for 1 day. They made it maybe 4 or 5 days, and it was the rain. But since then, these are wooden, and we've stepped it up, and it's the professionals put it up, and it's just it's just so magical. It is so magical when you walk through there and talk to people, and oh, my buddy got engaged here a few years ago, and it like the blue lights, I think, have become an iconic image of Boston, and it's just. A bunch of volunteers pulling it together, which would be impossible without the support of the local businesses, the members, and the city and the Parks Department. It all has to work together. And luckily, we've always had a wonderful relationship with the Parks Department and find them to be incredibly helpful, become friends. So, and you mentioned one thing about getting ready for 2026. So that's kind of been on my mind, and for the park, because there will literally be thousands of people in that park, and it's right there on the water. It's just so beautifully designed. So I've been after the Parks Department for our trash cans, which are just oil cans. I don't give me anything,
Right.
but they're open topped and the pigeons have such a good time with that. So they finally have put a little dome thing over it, and that really helps. But the cans still look. So I have a commitment that there will be all new cans. Isn't right? A new oil can, let's be refurbished. But that they should be pieces.
Gently used.
Deadly is exact. They'll be painted, so shiny black. So hopefully that will come true. And just getting things done to spruce it up, that it looks so beautiful, even more beautiful. One thing that I'm that may have to go higher up than the street department is I want all the light poles painted. They look awful, and you kind of found out some people. It was Parks Department, they know 80 minutes, but these guys are a little tough. And I figured the ballers and the chains will just kind of power wash the pigeon poop and just leave them the way they are, because that's kind of must. But so it's gonna be wonderful. It's been wonderful with the blue lights and now with the color glow. I hope you'll enjoy it and post pictures on Instagram.
It's wonderful to see the constant activities that go on throughout the year out here at the park.
It's always something going.
Anchored by the special events, but there's just always something going on out there. It's fun and lively.
And even if it isn't, it's just always been fun for me to see on the other side, on the Marriott side, and figure out where you're going to get a boat, because the signage is never quite accurate, or there's not enough of it, and too many people, it's just confusing. And they cross into the Marriott, get to the other side, and the whole temple slows down. It's just all relaxed, and it's pretty, and it's nice, so, we're really lucky to be the stewards of such a beautiful piece of property. And a city that supports it so much. And all of you who support it. Thank you.
Can we?
You brought up the ice sculpture stroll.
Yes.
And it made me, and you brought up the boats. And this year, for the first time, we ran a free ferry from the seaport over to East Boston to try to connect the neighborhoods. And it was used by over 600 people, I think, that day. And you should all know that we in the city of Boston have the second largest New Year's Day ice sculpture stroll in the country. So we all think we should make it the largest. And it is really well received by everybody who participates. And Joe, you were actually there.
Yeah, I mean, it goes from 1 to 5, I think. But we were
And
saying
they're usually melted by 5.
oh, they're 10 to 1 just going around. People were already out, like you had said.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just people that look forward to this every year. We were amazed at how many people were there at 10 in the morning with their little checklist, excited, going from one to the other. Like you were talking about activation. We used to talk about this at City Hall. How do you activate the city during the winter? And there's so many great initiatives between you guys, what we're trying to do, and so many others. It's just really awesome to see.
I would share that we did. We were up in New Hampshire for New Year's, so we weren't there to see those. But we did ice carving amongst our family. If you ever want to get people involved in something that's really engaging and it makes you realize how hard it is for those people to do the sculptures they do, give them a chunk of ice and an ice pick and let them go at it.
Any other announcements about winter activities?
Yeah, Suzanne, I don't know if you saw this. Did you see this email from Kate Roosa from the city, or shall I mention it?
With today?
Yeah. So, well, she just sent a note saying that she wasn't able to join our meeting this evening, but that there is a Wharf District informational office hour, really about what the Army Corps is going to be doing on Wednesday, February 4th, from 5 to 7 at the Leventhal Room, and also to be on the lookout. She said probably tomorrow for a public Zoom meeting to be posted on their site for a Zoom meeting on Tuesday, February 10th, from 6 to 7:30 about what they heard from all of us and what their next steps are going to be. So we should send that around to our membership. Susanna, you have this email when you get back, and just let everybody know that those are important things for us to stay engaged with.
Or, Joe?
I just got a text from our very engaged Stone Living Lab Advisory Board member, Charlene. Thank you, Charlene. Reminding me, I should probably mention that the Stone Living Lab is hosting a waterfront educators workshop. It's our fourth time we're hosting this, and it's February 12th. If you go to stonelivinglab.org on our events calendar for it. And I think if you go at the top of the page, it says get involved. There's a drop down, and you can get to our events calendar that way.
What's the date?
February 12th. And this is for anybody who is working on sort of waterfront activation and education. If you are a teacher in public schools working on climate work, or you're at a nonprofit, or you're a community organizer, we're bringing together, it's usually about 50 people every year, to just really trade notes, share ideas, listen to presentations from each other. It's an all-day event with a portion of it in the virtual and then in person. And Charlene, the in-person part is at the Children's Museum this year, isn't it? Is that right?
You know, I've signed up for it and I don't know. Let me quickly look at what I signed up to attend. I was quick to remind Joe about it, and then I was like, oh dear, you know something? I don't even have the location in here. So let's just say it's here. No.
On our social media.
Yeah, it is. It's a really cool event. And we record it every year too, and there's resources that we gather through this that we share on our website too. So it's a pretty special way to sort of share information, and it complements our biannual conference that'll come back in April of 2027. So yeah, please keep an eye out for that.
Great.
Yeah, I had one thing, which was about the flood for the ski. If folks aren't aware, you know, the city works really hard with the unhoused population, trying to make sure that anyone who's trying to get services gets the services that they need. Thursday night, we're both going out as part of the homeless census. You're going to be in the north of that?
Yes, I'll be in the north.
Makes sense. I'll be in the financial district. If folks aren't familiar, for more than 25 years, the city of Austin goes out with hundreds of volunteers every winter and goes out to see who's on the street and try to connect them with services in that time, in real time. That evening, the mayor and her entire team has shown great leadership doing that. So when you hear about the numbers associated with the unhoused population, that is where those numbers come from. And they try to link up individuals and their specific needs of what they need. So it's a long night. We should get home around like 1 o'clock in the morning, but it's a very, very powerful evening. And if anyone's interested in volunteering, they were a little light on volunteers this year. So I would encourage you next year to, as this loops around, as you're thinking, as you're heading into the holiday season, we can remind people of the volunteer opportunity.
Do they still need people this year, Chris, or are they guys?
At this point, they've come up with their plan of action, but they were trying to get more additional people a couple of weeks ago. Right now, they have their plan of action, but it's a pretty powerful evening with Pine Street Inn, Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Everyone who's working with these populations is active that evening.
What was the date again, please?
It's Thursday evening.
This Thursday?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's every year, and it's just an incredibly powerful event, and the city shows really fantastic.
And Maria Perez here, our neighbor liaison. Neighbor, do you have anything that you want to?
I do not have anything, but we do have a fitness winter series, but I did check today and there wasn't any in our area. So that was kind of the only thing I wanted to share, but unfortunately, not right now, but they come up with
We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, of course, thank you for having me.
Just wanted to share a breaking news update. The second half, the in-person component of the workshop is at the Museum of Science.
Oh.
One of our other amazing cultural institution partners at the Stone Living Lab, but not the Children's Museum, but I'm sure the Children's Museum will be very well represented, and maybe we'll host it next year, perhaps. Yeah, Museum of Science, we're grateful.
I would remind everybody that on our wharfdistrictcouncil.org website, we have a list of all of the programmed activities that are known upcoming for the rest of the winter and the spring. And so if you have any questions about things to do, what you want to bring your family or friends or guests to, go to our website. Flory has been doing a great job at scraping that data manually from all of the different sources, and things like what Joe, what you mentioned and what I talked about. Those things will go onto our website, and if you have any doubts about which museum to go to, you can always check on our website.
Can't go wrong. I got so many wonderful ones here.
Oh, we have one more piece of business. Oh, Susanna.
I just want to go back to what Mark mentioned about the meeting on February 4th with the Army Corps of Engineers. I cannot stress how important that meeting is to the folks in this community. This is a presentation by the Army Corps, and it shows us where they propose to put the barriers, the water barriers in this particular neighborhood. They've done it with other neighborhoods as well. This is very important because I think when you see what they're talking about and how it will be years from now, nonetheless, it's going to affect this community. There are two options at the moment. One is on the water's edge. The other one, I'll simply say, is going down Atlantic Avenue. I mean, this is something that the Army Corps is going to be doing in order to protect this community in the city of Boston from the rising tides. So I would recommend that if you have the time, I don't believe it's going to be on Zoom. I don't know, I haven't seen the email, but it is an important piece of information that will, at some point, affect this community.
So where is it?
Right now, Mark is saying that it's here.
It's in person at the Leventhal Center on the 4th. And then there's a Zoom version of it. Well, Suzanne will send this all around.
Right, I mean, I haven't seen the email. It just came today.
Yeah.
There was a group of us that were presented with this information on November 19th. And then they had subsequent meetings with communities, but our community meeting was scheduled for City Hall. And we said, nobody's going to really go to City Hall at 7, 8 o'clock at night in the middle of winter. So we've gotten them to come here.
And the more people who show up, the better.
Yeah.
And the more you speak up, the better.
Exactly.
And they've been doing these
Suzanne
all.
will get
I just want to introduce myself to the group as well. I am Samantha Barachi. I'm the Council of Floods and Causes, North and your Wharf District liaison. So I just wanted to let everyone in the audience know that I am here representing the councilor who is also a big forefront for climate resilience. So if anyone would like my information, I have plenty of cards. I just wanted to let you guys know who I was, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
great.
In the future, we'd love to put you and Maria on the agenda. Just something you'd like to say.
Yeah, of course.
That way.
We can always let you know too if we have any updates that to share like quickly in the beginning. It usually wouldn't be more than a minute if we did have anything.
Fabulous. Okay.
All right. So we have only one more piece of business, and that is election of officers, right? And my fingers are crossed. Right?
Well, I think you want to make that for members only, right?
vote on our prop.
Thank you all very much.